this story took place in Benzie County in 1854, and December 7th, as a matter of fact, and the ship Westmoreland was traveling from Milwaukee to Buffalo, and it had all the supplies for the garrison on Fort Mackinac, all their winter supplies, all their food, uniforms, things like that. So the ship got into trouble. It ran into a winter gale and ice formed on the top of the boat. Now this was a 200-foot steamer when steamers were pretty easy. Most vessels were sail in the 1840s, 1850s. This was a new development they had as these steamships, propeller driven. And the boilers went out around South Manitou and they were in trouble. I mean, back in 1854, this was all wilderness. So the winds took it and blew it down Sleeping Bear Dune, past the Empire Bluffs, and eventually the ship sank in Platte Bay. And everybody got into the lifeboats, and the last lifeboat launched was the biggest, and that got caught up in the rigging and flipped over, and 17 people died there. So 17 people lived and 17 people died, and they landed at the mouth of the Platte River.
Wow, that is an amazing story. And that happened when?
December 7th, 1854, and it was a 1.5 foot of snow on the ground,
wow.
Cold.
Yeah.
If you imagine getting out of the water and having to start a fire and your life depended on it, there was, Empire wasn't there, Frankfort wasn't there. There was one cabin where Frankfort now is.
Wow.
And then a couple of settlers up in Glen Arbor, and that's what the survivors did, is they went up to Glen Arbor and saw a couple cabins, and some of them stayed the winter there, and some of the other group walked on to where they had to go. They had to walk everywhere. The captain walked from Glen Arbor to Grand Haven.
Oh my gosh.
On Indian trails. I mean, there were no roads. He followed the Indian trail down there.
No way.
Yeah.
Life or death.
Took him like 4 days, and he slept in the woods at night, and you just think about the hardship. It's a hard drive.
Yeah.
As I'm going down there at 60 miles, 70 miles an hour, thinking, this is terrible. But imagine having to hoof that in, worn out, wet clothing. But that's what they did back then. That's
a completely different world we wouldn't even really recognize today.
No.
Compared to what it is, obviously.
All virgin timber. They said the trees were huge, and they went right to the water's edge. And the canopy was so high that you could ride a horse through the forest at full speed. It was so wide open back then. So, I mean, imagine landing in almost this prehistoric land.